Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shauna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. I have some tips for you today. And before I jump in and just tell you all the things that I have learned along my very bumpy journey, I wanted to give you some context for why the hell I think this is even important to share with you. So, I was working with someone recently, and she was in a state of what I call emotional hot mess. And there was a lot of different things happening in her life all at the same time. She was dealing with a really difficult loss. And so there was massive amounts of grief that she was trying to process. Simultaneously, there was a major life decision that she was having to make. And it felt impossible to think logically. And what would have been a very simple decision became very overwhelming. And what I was telling her in this situation was, while it was very different than my experience, I said, this is exactly how I have felt every time I was going through a divorce. And what I proceeded to share with her is what I'm going to share with you now. So each time I was facing this inevitable divorce, I was grieving this potential loss. And I would say when I'm in the midst of, um, here's the thing. For anyone who's gone through a divorce, they know that this is accurate. When you are in the state of trying to make the decision, do I stay, do I go? Is he staying? Is he going? Regardless of whether or not it's your choice, there is a limbo period where decisions haven't been made yet. And that state of limbo is so impossible. It feels like fucking quicksand where you can't even step forward in a clear, concise way because it's just like decisions are pending, but nothing's being done. The moment the decision is made, whether it was yours or it was made for you, doesn't actually matter. Once the decision is made, it's clear and you can start moving forward. And it's this moving forward phase that I'm talking about. So the decision has been made and you are grieving a loss, whether or not you wanted the divorce. What I can remember about those times was I felt like an emotional hot mess. I was crying for no reason. I was doing my best just to get through the day. It was like I was looking through fuzzy glasses at the world and nothing seemed clear. Everything was murky. The most basic decisions, what do I want to eat for dinner tonight, were so impossible that I just was at an emotional high, but it was like tumultuous emotions were at an all-time high. It was so much grief and so much anger and so much disappointment that I was, if you could see me now, my hands are up in the air. Like I was so full of emotions that it felt like I couldn't make a logical decision. And the interesting thing about this phase of going through a divorce is when you are at that heightened emotional hot mess, that's when you're having to make some real logical decisions. Custody, where you're going to live. A lot of times, I'll tell you in one situation, I was having to find a new place to live for me and my children in a week's time frame. I had a week to find not only where we were going to live, but to move and be in that new place. And this was all, by the way, when I was working full-time in corporate America. Both my children were in school, and I was forced with making a life event decision where we're going to live in a very quick amount of time. It needed to be highly logical, and I was an emotional hot mess. So it got me to thinking, after I was having that conversation and sharing how much I could relate to the state that she was in, that I actually had some tips that were helpful. And that's how this episode came to be, because I wanted to give you some really solid direction. How do you manage responsibilities when life feels unmanageable? So here are my tips for you on how to make logical decisions when you feel like a emotional hot mess. So, the first one I think is the most important, and that is to seek counsel, to get help. So, here's the thing, especially if you're going through a divorce and it feels very private, you don't want to air your dirty laundry. Um, Here's the thing I'm going to remind you, we're not actually meant to do life alone. We need help. We all need help. And so when I give you this guidance to seek counsel, it means to rely on these people whose role in your life is to help you in a very logical way. So, for example, I've got three different suggestions. So, a real estate agent, a therapist, or a mentor of some sort. So, when it comes to finding a place to live, especially if you were like me and in that very short amount of time need to make a logical decision when you don't feel capable of even deciding, that's where you rely on real estate agents, um, leasing agents. There are people whose whole entire profession is built around helping people do this. So I was very fortunate. I have an amazing real estate agent who I was able to rely on to help me stay focused, help me to make the decision one tiny step at a time. Um, he was able to ask me a few select questions. It helped that we had bought and sold property together previously. So we had some experience and he knew me. But a good real estate agent will take the guidance they give you and minimize your options. So for me, I did not have the time to look at 20 different properties. I needed to be able to come and say, here's my list. This is what's important to me. And he could do the work to narrow it down and provide me with a select few options. And then I would say a really good real estate agent knows how to keep you focused on what's most important. So being able to apply logic on your behalf, they can remove the emotion from those decisions. And so I think real estate agents are a really great way, especially if it's where the hell am I going to live is the logical decision you're trying to make. Um, Being able to rely on those experts is helpful. Then the other one that I've spent lots and lots of time talking about is a therapist. So my therapist has been instrumental in my life in many, many different challenging phases, but she is also a good person for me to rely on to remove the emotion, to process the emotion, but also to give me some really clear next steps and to keep me focused on the logical next steps when I'm not quite thinking logically. So, being able to rely on a therapist to help you create your plan and then work your plan is a really excellent strategy for making your way through the murky emotions and actually being able to clearly make decisions. The last suggestion I have is hiring a coach or a business mentor. So, when we find ourselves in this kind of distraught emotional headspace and being able to then apply logical um, analytics to business decisions, I think this is where we can rely on the right mentor to kind of help do that for us. So, being able to come to a conversation and say, this is where I'm at. Nothing seems clear. And being able to really hone in on, okay, have you considered this? What about this next step? How about we do this and touch base again? Having that accountability is really what's helpful because I think that sometimes is what keeps us on track. So being able to have a relationship with someone in this way, a coach or a mentor who you're meeting with on a regular basis, is that accountability. So being able to know that you have a checkpoint coming up, holds you accountable to do the things on your plan, especially helpful when everything seems less clear and emotions are heightened. Being able to kind of focus your efforts and accomplish one small thing. I think the other benefit to having a coach or a mentor is that you have somebody kind of cheerleading your successes along the way. Because when we are having this emotional hot messness in our life, our state of being is that it's less likely that we're going to be able to say, wow, I did a real good job over there. No, we need people to remind us that we're actually making progress, that we are accomplishing things, and to stop and celebrate our successes when in the moment it doesn't even feel like a success, maybe. And I think that's one of the real big reasons why you have to pay coaches, if I'm being honest, because that takes some work for that mentor to show up for you and to hold them accountable for being an asset to you week after week after week. Like, you're paying for access to this person. And so that's where a coach can come in and provide the same sort of guidance that a business mentor would, but in a way that is mutually beneficial, right? So this is why if you have a great business mentor that is just a guidance mechanism, it will be a short-lived relationship unless you are giving something back. There needs to, and this isn't to say life is tit for tat, but there needs to be an energetic exchange between two people in order to have this symbiotic uh, relationship. And so the best situations are when there is that energetic exchange. So if you've had a business mentor for years and years and years, and you guys are holding regular touch points, I guarantee you it's because that person is getting something out of it from you as well. They are being rewarded in some way that makes that situation feel good. And so that's where I think the best relationships from a business perspective really exist, is this mutually beneficial, you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of win-win is created, right? So I think being able to cultivate those, whether it is a coach you are paying or a mentor that you are seeking guidance from in those moments when life feels chaotic, having someone else apply the logic for us, being able to look at things analytically when we are having kind of clouded judgment is really helpful. So that's number one, seek counsel. When you're a hot mess, get yourself some help in whatever way you need help. But I think being able to rely on people to assist you in the ways that you need. When life feels chaotic, we need someone with a logical approach to come in and assist us with this is step 1, 2, 3, until we're thinking clearly again, and we can do that for ourselves. So the second tip I have for you is allowing yourself room to let the feelings breathe. So I think a lot of times, much of this human life experience is we're trying to avoid the icky bad feelings, and we're trying to minimize how yucky we feel. And in all reality, what happens when we feel the grief and we process the loss and we allow ourselves to just be sad or to have a crying session where you break down, like when you allow yourself to feel those feelings, while yes, in the moment, it doesn't feel great. But what's happening is we're allowing those emotions to release from our body. We're allowing them to leave. And so I find salt baths really helpful. It's a way to pull out toxins from my body, and it's a really good way for me to kind of allow emotions to process and leave. The other two, I talk about these all the time. I feel like a broken record, but I'm going to tell you again that meditation is helpful, and so is journaling. So here's the thing with meditation, for me, it allows me a safe place to release emotions. So sometimes in meditation, especially in moments of emotional chaos, it allows me to just sit and cry. It allows me to just allow the emotions to release. And then it gives me, so for meditation for me is a safe place to process. It's a safe place for me to play with new emotions. It just is my safe world where it's okay to feel how I feel. It's okay to think the things I think, and it's okay to let them go. And I think meditation is a really great way to practice letting go. And so that's where I think this concept of allowing your feelings room to breathe and leave, meditation is a great mechanism to do that. The other way to do that, that you've heard me talk on repeat, is journaling. So, journaling, writing out the emotions, writing out the feelings, writing out the thoughts that are making you feel the way you're feeling. It is such a great way to get it out of your mind. So, one of the things, this is kind of a sidebar, but one of the things I heard years and years and years ago was when so for insomnia, when you're having trouble sleeping, a lot of times it's because you've got thoughts running on repeat and you're having trouble quieting your mind enough to go to sleep. And it's high stress moments. Maybe you've got conflict with a person. Maybe it's just that you are grieving the loss of something in your life. Sometimes it's just that you wake up from a dream and you can't quit thinking about the dream you just had. So being able to have a notepad by your bed to write down the things that you're thinking about, for me, in moments of insomnia, it has been, oh my God, I need to remember to put that on my grocery list, or, oh gosh, did I remember to put this on my calendar? I'm going to need to remember to do blah, blah, blah. And so for me to have that journal by my bedside table to be able to write the thing down allows me to know that I won't forget it. When I get up in the morning, there's my note. And if I'm wanting to remember the dream I had, if I'm wanting to remember the 15 things I need to do before my first cup of coffee in the morning, it allows me a place to just hold it and get it out of my mind and let myself go back to sleep. And so I feel like journaling is a really great way to do that for yourself when you've got all these emotions swirling that make it difficult to make decisions. So being able to just journal it out is a really great way to have it in a holding spot. You know, you're not going to forget it. You can come back to it later. It's almost like we can just put our little idea on a shelf and come back to it when we have the time or energy to process it. And journaling is a great way to do that. The third tip I have for you is this whole concept of positive over negative. So the idea is positivity is a great motivator and puts us in a better headspace to process things logically. When we are in a negative tailspin, when we are processing a lot of what, quote unquote, bad emotions, it limits our ability to think logically. And so if we can shift from the negative to the positive, it will get us to a better point of clarity where we can make those decisions for ourselves easier and faster. So some of the ways that you can shift from the negative to the positive is, one, quite simply, to spend more time focused on what you actually want to happen. So I don't know about you, but when I have had moments of conflict with a person, I can easily spend hours and hours and hours running through potential conversations and how I want them to go and what I'm afraid that person might say and how I would respond to the thing. And I am, in a lot of cases, visualizing and spending time thinking about scenarios I don't actually want to happen. So, on the days that I've got this down, I will spend time intentionally thinking about how I want that conversation to go. What do I actually want that person to say? How do I want them to respond to me? What do I actually want to say? How do I show up as the best version of myself? And in some cases, it's that the conversation doesn't have to happen at all, that I can imagine an interaction with this person that just feels easy breezy and light and fun, and there are smiles. Being able to spend time focused on what you actually want to happen is a whole lot easier than running over the worst case scenarios on repeat in your mind. So if we go back to that earlier example of me having to find a place to live. I could have easily spent much of that time, and I had limited amount of time. I could have spent the majority of that time running through worst case scenarios where we end up homeless or I'm having to sleep in my car with my children. And so that would have been the worst case scenario for me. And I could have spent a lot of time contemplating what did that look like? How would I do that? How embarrassed my children would be to go to school, instead of focusing on what I actually wanted to have happen. And in that situation, I will say I was actually able to push through, and this is where my control freak abilities kind of popped in and served me really well, was my ability to control the outcome, which was find us an apartment to rent temporarily, in a very short amount of time. And so being able to kind of write out those worst case scenarios in your journal so that they have a place to go and die, and you're not spinning your wheels running through those worst case scenarios through your mind, is a really helpful mechanism to shift from the negative to the positive. The other way that I like to handle these potential conflict conversations, in those moments with these high conflict people that we have in our life from time to time, is to actually give yourself permission to write a letter of all the really honest, maybe ugly things that you would love to say, but you know you'll never say it to their face. Write it all down in a letter as if you're going to send it. I do recommend writing this on a piece of paper and not actually drafting an email with their name in the to field. Just write it on a piece of paper. That way you can then burn it. Burning a piece of paper is much more fulfilling than deleting an email draft. So this is why I recommend actually old school pen and paper. Write a letter to the person with all the things you'd love to say and go burn it. There is an energetic transformation that happens in the act of burning that paper because you are letting those thoughts die. You are letting them burn up. They are going away. It allows you to release it, get it out of your system, and not actually communicate horrible things to another person. But it's a way to kind of shift from, part of our ability to shift from negative to positive is we have to think the things sometimes and we need to get them out. And once we've said it, whether it is to our best friend instead of that person or it's on a piece of paper, being able to get it out of us and release it is the goal. And then the other way that we can use journaling as a way to shift towards positivity is to journal out your best case scenario. So, spending time thinking about what you want to happen is part of it, but actually writing about it in your journal as if it's already happened. Write about it in current tense, that you live in this amazing new apartment, that you are already here, that your children feel safe, that you are building this new home. Being able to write it as if it's already happened before you even find the apartment is a really good way to shift towards the positive. And this positivity, the reason we want to do this and the reason we care is because it allows us to think more logically. It clears our mind. We are able to process what's actually happening and make those decisions easier. And it gets us to that point of clarity that we're seeking. My next suggestion for you is to move your body. Now, this one seems a little less intuitive, but part of that processing, releasing of negative energy, part of releasing those emotions is sometimes those things get stuck in our physical body, and being able to move energy out of your body sometimes is as simple as moving your body. So going for a walk, lifting weights, doing something that is physically exerting energy sometimes is a really great way to release those negative emotions from your body. My favorite way to do that, because listen, I'm not a huge workout fan. You're not going to catch me going for hikes or going for a bike ride or even a walk around the neighborhood voluntarily. Like if you see me doing any of those things, I guarantee you it's because someone else has suggested that I do it or begged me to go with them. But what I do enjoy is yoga. For me, yoga is a great way to physically move energy out of my body. It allows me to become more flexible. I am actually making my body stronger, but it's in a very gentle way that works well for my body. And so yoga is one of my favorite ways to move energy out of my body simply by physically moving my body. And then my last suggestion for you, so my tip number 5 is to stop the negative spiral. So a lot of times what's happening with energy is we've built up a momentum and it's hard to stop the momentum. So it's like this negative thought spiral has begun to, if you picture a large hill covered in snow, and your initial negative thought or emotion is at the top of that hill, and it starts rolling down the hill, and as it starts rolling, it's gaining momentum. It's gathering more snow. The snowball is becoming bigger. It starts to go faster. So faster, bigger, worse as it goes down because it's gathering all this momentum on the way down. So if we think about our negative thought spiral as kind of being this snowball down the mountain, we have to find a way to just stop the cycle sometimes. And for me, honestly, y'all, take a nap. Just go stop for 5 minutes. Take a 10-minute cat nap. Just stop in whatever way works for you. So I love naps. I'm a big fan. It doesn't work for everybody, but in whatever way you can just go to sleep, take a nap. It literally stops the cycle. Now, I will tell you, one of my tips for this is the minute you wake up, you're going to be right back where you were unless you consciously stop it. So being able to stop the snowball midway down the mountain is to take a nap. What I have done is set an alarm in my phone that wakes me up from my little mini cat nap with the mantra that I would like to use moving forward. So the quick in your face reminder of how I'm going to stop that thought spiral when I wake up is what's important. So being able to go take a nap, wake up, and start the new train of thought is the goal. And what I like to use is a mantra in these moments of high emotional stress, in those moments of, oh my God, life feels out of control. I don't know how to decide what I want to eat today, much less where I'm going to live with my children. This is your mantra. The problem is not permanent, pervasive, or personal. Being able to remind ourselves that this moment in time, this struggle we're going through, this current challenge is not permanent. We will not always be in this place. It's not going to continue forever, and it's not personal. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you in some way, shape, or form. But being able to remind us that this problem is not permanent is a really big, helpful reminder that, you've heard it said it this way as well. This too shall pass. I won't always be in this situation where I don't know where we're living next week. It is a temporary obstacle and we will get through it. And I think sometimes that is all it takes in those moments of we are taking a nap and we're going to wake up and think a new thought. And that is, this too shall pass. We will find a solution. We will get through this. In whatever way you need to remind yourself that the moment you wake up from that nap, we are thinking different. We are moving forward and shifting back to positivity, allowing those feelings a way to release, and then remembering that we're not supposed to do it alone. So seek counsel, get help from those logical thinkers who are playing the role that you need. And that, my friends, is how you make logical decision when you feel like an emotional hot mess. Because listen, we've all been there, but this too shall pass and you won't stay there forever. So hopefully something in there was helpful to you. You've got some tidbits. These are my recommendations on how you can manage the responsibilities that, listen, at times feel very overwhelming, and you can actually get through it. So if you read my book, you've heard me say, you got this. And if you are a friend in my life sending a kid to college, I have told you, you've got this. Because listen, you got this. No matter what you're facing, you can get through it. And that's what we're here to do together. So thank you for joining me. Oh my gosh, I appreciate everyone who pops in to listen to me every week. And I cannot say thank you enough, but I can ask you for something, which is, will you please pop on over to wherever it is that you listen to podcasts and leave a review on our show? Let me know how this is impacting your life and that the inspiration is just what you needed today. Okay, listen. Are you struggling to find what your true purpose really is? You should try journaling. At the very least, it will get you to a better feeling place than where you are right now. I've created a set of journal prompts to get you on your way to discovering who you truly are and where you want to go from here. My free download is called Journal Yourself to Joy, and it's available at shaunalee.com under Free Stuff. These are my tried and true journal prompts that will raise your energy, increase your positivity, and brighten your day. Download yours today.